The menu of clinical scenarios is located in the upper right corner of the main menu window, with selection options like hypertension, hypotension, cardiac dysrhythmias, etc. The presentation design is the same for all scenarios. Let us take the scenario of ventricular paroxysmal tachycardia as an example. The scenarios window contains a general pathology description, with graphs showing location of 4 zones of pathology. Each such zone separately with interactive mode, allowing interfering in the signal's parameters and an interactive layout of the excitation process typical of this disorder. Here one can see what happens in those 4 zones of pathology, and with the help of interactive slider, enabling a user to dramatically slow it all down. Study the excitation disorder in a step-by-step mode. Possible treatment methods are also listed in this window. Closing this window down initiates the scenario, and the ECG showing this rhythm disturbance appears. Now we are supposed to provide necessary treatment. 2 principal methods are applicable here. The first option is drug-induced medication. Left-click on drugs in the external influences menu. Select cardio group and choose an appropriate drug. To get a quicker response, let's do it with lidocaine. Once the drug is injected, it typically takes from 20 to 40 seconds for it to produce any effects. There it is. The second option is defibrillation, selected from the instrumental interventions menu. 150 joule version, for instance. Left-click power button. As we can see, this version is of no help in this case, though the ECG shows that we tried. Let's take the 250 joule one. According to ECG, this choice was right. Now let's check one of myocardial infarction scenarios. Phrenic myocardial infarction model, for example, selected from the infarction selection subwindow. The scenario window features a graph showing a blood clot in the right coronary artery. The endocardial ischemia starts to develop in real time. This development is displayed in the interactive graph as formation and propagation of the dark segment of a certain size. One can change the diameter of the blood clot with the help of the slider and thereby change the lumen patency of the artery. Here the lumen is 78% blocked. Soon a decrease in ST segment below the baseline of the ECG will be observed. That's the typical infarction waveform. Here we can only show treatment in principle, which is opening of the vessel's lumen, of course. Another class of scenarios is that of pulmonary embolism. Let's see what happens with the most dangerous variety, the pulmonary trunk embolism. In the scenarios window, one will find a description of pathology and a scenario graph with an initiation button. When the latter is left-clicked, one will see how a blood clot shown as a black dot travels to the pulmonary trunk to block it and cause a corresponding pathological condition. The clot size can be altered by means of the interactive slider below the scenario initiation button. The vitals monitor will display drop in blood pressure and other signs of upcoming death. The simulator gets pale and closes eyes. Of course, the condition will improve if we diminish the clot's size. Just for the sake of demonstration. The next group of scenarios is represented by hemorrhages. The scenario window provides a description of hemorrhages, and an interactive graph for a user to choose a location of hemorrhage, blood loss depending on diameter of vessel selected. Hemorrhages are shown by example of arterial bleeding, though by means of an interactive slider the blood loss rate can be regulated down to simulation of venous and capillary bleeding. The hem monitor on the left-hand side of the main menu, just below the vitals monitor, displays in the real-time scale indices of hemoglobin, packed cell volume, and oxygen transported. Let's see what happens if we choose the femoral artery. To initiate this scenario, set the slider to the maximum blood loss rate. A symbolic transparent tank is being filled with blood. Digits at its rims show the volume of blood loss, and hem monitor readings are changing correspondingly. In terms of treatment, First, we'll have to stop hemorrhage by positioning the slider to 0 blood loss rate. Now we can apply further medication resorting to appropriate solutions, chosen from the corresponding menu. In order to bring indices of hemoglobin, packed cell volume, and oxygen transported back to norm,